A warning to our viewers. What you're about to watch is a true story. The following program contains content that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
What is your emergency?
Oh, my wife's not breathing! My wife, I just woke up, my wife's dead!
She's got broken ribs. She's got a broken nose. She's got cuts behind her ear. She's got approximately 30 pellets in her. What kind of life did this woman have?
The smell as they walked down that basement staircase hit them first. An acrid, sickly odor unlike anything they'd encountered before. December 6th, 2009. Ottawa police officers were about to descend into a scene that would haunt them forever. Bloodstains splattered the walls, the hallway floor, the stair posts, a broken door. And there, on a makeshift mattress of couch pillows, lay what would defy all comprehension, a 33-year-old woman's body, so badly burned that forensic officers couldn't take her fingerprints, 29 airgun pellets embedded in her flesh, burns covering 40% of her body. Detective Tara Anderson, a seasoned officer, would later testify, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." But the most chilling detail of all, she had been alive, suffering in agony, for 11 days while the man who promised to love and protect her watched her slowly die. This wasn't some random act of violence in a dark alley. This wasn't a stranger's crime. This happened in a quiet Ottawa neighborhood behind the closed doors of a modest home on Barwell Avenue. The perpetrator? The very man who had vowed to love, honor, and cherish her just 2 years earlier. The man she protected even as he destroyed her. The man she called husband. This is the bone-chilling blueprint of the most methodical murder ever committed behind wedding vows, and the twisted mind that orchestrated 11 days of calculated torture. Welcome to the Shadow Files crime series. Tonight's case will shake you to your core. Take a moment to hit subscribe, drop a like, and please let us know where you're watching from. And now, we begin. This was Ottawa in 2009, a city where nearly 120,000 federal employees formed the backbone of Canada's capital. Professional, educated, progressive. The kind of place where colleagues looked out for each other, where domestic violence awareness was growing, where people believed they could spot the warning signs. But the statistics told a chilling story. 7% of women across Canada were experiencing spousal violence, yet only 25% of incidents ever reached police. This was the pre-smartphone era, before social media made abuse harder to hide, before apps could secretly document evidence, before GPS tracking revealed the full scope of control. In government offices throughout downtown Ottawa, in the gleaming federal buildings that house Canada's civil service, colleagues worked side by side, unaware that one of their own was slowly being destroyed. That the cheerful woman who organized their office parties was living a nightmare behind closed doors. That being surrounded by caring, educated professionals meant nothing when the predator lived in your own home, because domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about your education, your income, your postal code. And sometimes knowing all the signs in the world isn't enough to save the person you love from the monster sleeping beside them. Donna Jones entered this world on Christmas Day, 1975, a gift to her family and everyone who would come to know her. But her early life, while filled with love, also planted the seeds of vulnerability that would later make her a target. Raised in a traditional household, Donna learned early that women were expected to be accommodating, submissive, and above all, to honor their husbands. These weren't just family values, they were the foundation of a belief system that would later trap her in a cycle of abuse. As a child, Donna struggled with self-consciousness about her appearance and weight. She had a lazy eye that made her feel awkward around others, particularly boys. These insecurities, though common in adolescence, would follow her into adulthood, creating cracks in her confidence that a predator would later exploit. But Donna's spirit was stronger than her doubts. Determined to build a better life for herself, Donna became the first person in her family to attend university. At Carleton University, she blossomed into the woman she was meant to be, intelligent, driven, and fiercely independent. She didn't just attend university, she excelled, all while working to pay her own way. Education wasn't handed to Donna Jones. She earned every credit, every degree, every opportunity through sheer determination. After graduation, Donna landed a position with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, where she quickly established herself as a rising star. Her colleagues respected her intelligence and work ethic, and her supervisors saw unlimited potential in the young professional. In an era when many young people struggled with student debt for decades, Donna paid off her loans in record time, a testament to her financial discipline and fierce independence. By her late 20s, Donna had achieved what many only dream of. She owned her own home, had a stable career with the federal government, and had built a solid financial foundation for her future. She was living proof that hard work and determination could overcome any obstacle. She was exactly the kind of woman other young people looked up to. Successful, grounded, and completely self-sufficient. But it was Donna's personality that made her truly special. Friends and colleagues described her with words that painted a picture of someone who lit up every room she entered. Bubbly, outgoing, an absolute sunshine. She wasn't just successful. She was joyful. Her laugh was infectious, her energy contagious. She was the friend everyone wanted to be around, the colleague who made even the most mundane work projects feel fun. Donna was the social organizer of her diverse group of friends, the one who brought people together, who remembered birthdays and planned gatherings. She had a gift for making others feel included and valued. In a world that often feels fragmented and lonely, Donna Jones was a connector, a light that drew people together. Her financial acumen was something she took particular pride in. Having grown up without privilege, Donna understood the value of every dollar. She was careful with her money, strategic in her planning, always thinking ahead. Her small home wasn't just a place to live. It was a symbol of everything she had accomplished on her own terms. Christmas birthdays can sometimes feel overlooked, but Donna's family always made her day special. Those celebrations were filled with laughter, warmth, and the kind of joy that only comes from being deeply loved. Donna had dreams that stretched far beyond her current success, ambitions that would have taken her even further in her career, plans for the future that sparkled with possibility. This was the woman Mark Hutt destroyed. Not just a victim, but a vibrant human being with hopes, dreams, and so much life left to live. A woman who had overcome every obstacle life had thrown at her, only to fall victim to the one danger she couldn't see coming, the man who had promised to love her. To understand how a monster hides in plain sight, you have to understand Mark Peter Hutt. On the surface, he seemed harmless enough, a 32-year-old occasional roofer with an easy smile and a talent for making himself appear vulnerable. But beneath that carefully constructed facade lurked something far more sinister. Mark's life was a pattern of instability and manipulation. He worked sporadically, drifting from job to job, never quite able to support himself. His financial history read like a cautionary tale: mounting debts, unpaid bills, and ultimately a bankruptcy filing in June 2006, just around the time he got engaged to Donna. It wasn't coincidence, it was calculation. Predators have an uncanny ability to identify their perfect victims, and Mark had found his in Donna Jones. Here was a woman who had been taught by her father to honor her husband, a woman who was self-conscious about her appearance, who had struggled with confidence around men, a woman with a generous heart, financial stability, and a deep-seated need to nurture and fix broken things. To Mark, Donna wasn't a person. She was an opportunity. The red flags were there from day one, glaring and undeniable. Mark was emotionally dependent from the moment they met, clinging to Donna with an intensity that should have been alarming. But he disguised his neediness as devotion, his control as caring. He would call her workplace at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency up to 12 times a day, not to chat but to monitor, to control, to ensure she was exactly where he expected her to be. The true nature of Mark's personality was revealed in hundreds of handwritten notes found throughout their home after Donna's death. These notes painted a chilling picture of his Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde nature. One moment calling Donna a terrible wife, the next insisting, "You are my angel." The psychological manipulation was constant, calculated, and devastating. Mark's appetite for expensive toys was voracious and telling. Despite his inability to hold steady employment, he craved luxury: trucks, ATVs, snowmobiles, snowboards, endless equipment that his own income could never support. But that was Donna's job now. She was his personal bank account, his funding source for a lifestyle he had never earned. Most disturbing of all were the whispers about Mark's behavior with other women before Donna. There had been complaints, concerns raised about his treatment of previous partners, but these warning signs were either dismissed or overlooked, allowing Mark to continue his predatory pattern until he found the perfect victim, a woman whose own upbringing had primed her to accept his abuse as somehow normal, even deserved. Summer 2005. It started innocently enough. A mutual friend thought Donna and Mark would be perfect for each other. But sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who come recommended. Mark Peter Hutt was 32. An occasional roofer with a charming smile and a talent for making himself seem helpless. Donna, with her generous heart and natural desire to nurture, was the perfect target. The change was immediate and alarming. The woman who had been the social organizer of her friend group, the one who brought everyone together, suddenly began pulling away. Phone calls went unanswered. Social gatherings were declined. At work, colleagues at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency noticed their rising star was dimming. Donna's previously outstanding performance began to slip, her focus scattered, her confidence eroding. The control was suffocating. Mark would call Donna's workplace a dozen times a day, not sweet check-ins but interrogations. Where was she? Who was she with? What was she doing? Friends began overhearing these conversations, witnessing the verbal abuse that poured through the phone. They watched as Donna would flinch when her phone rang, as she would anxiously glance around before answering, as if afraid someone might hear her being torn down by the man who claimed to love her. By 2007, as wedding plans progressed, Donna's friends had seen enough. They organized what they hoped would be a life-saving intervention. They sat her down, these brilliant, educated women who cared deeply about their friend, and they begged her not to marry Mark Hutt. They had watched him isolate her, control her, diminish her. They could see the signs written clearly across her increasingly fragile frame. But trauma bonds are invisible chains, and Donna couldn't break free. When the intervention failed, her wedding party faced an impossible choice: stand by and watch their friend marry her destroyer, or take a stand. One by one, they backed out of the wedding party, hoping their absence would send a message loud enough to wake Donna up. The message wasn't received. On September 15, 2007, Donna Ellen Jones became Donna Hutt, sealing her fate with promises of love, honor, and obedience. The photographs from that day would later haunt everyone who knew her. Donna's smile bright but brittle, her body already showing the devastating effects of Mark's control. In just 2 years of being with him, her weight had plummeted from 162 pounds to a skeletal 101 pounds. Mark had found his meal ticket, and he intended to drain every last penny from it. The woman who had been so proud of her financial independence, who had paid off her student loans in record time and bought her own home, was being systematically destroyed. Mark's appetite for expensive toys was voracious. A truck, an ATV, a snowmobile, a snowboard, endless gadgets and equipment that Donna's federal salary was forced to fund. By 2009, the inevitable had happened. Donna Jones, once financially secure and independent, filed for bankruptcy. The woman who had never borrowed money was reduced to asking her parents for small loans. She owed $50,000 on top of her mortgage. Everything she had worked for, everything she had built, had been consumed by Mark Hutt's greed. The destruction was complete. Except for Donna herself, and that, tragically, would be next. The signs were impossible to ignore, yet somehow they were. Months before her death, mysterious burns began appearing on Donna's arms, oozing, infected wounds that she refused to have treated. Colleagues at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency watched in growing horror as their friend arrived at work with increasingly obvious injuries. Black eyes that makeup couldn't hide, bruises in various stages of healing, cuts and scrapes that told a story of systematic violence. What they couldn't see was even worse. The autopsy would later reveal the full scope of Mark's cruelty. 9 fractured ribs, some old, some recent, 7 calloused ribs, suggesting earlier fractures likely caused by kicks, a broken nose that had healed improperly, 2 black eyes, a broken left finger, bent backward in what could only have been deliberate torture, fractures to both wrists, including what forensic experts called a nightstick fracture, the kind of break that occurs when someone raises their arm defensively against a blow. And then there were the pellets, 29 airgun pellets embedded throughout Donna's body, some having been there for months. The lead poisoning in her system told the story of prolonged torture, Mark using her as target practice, firing at close range to ensure the pellets penetrated her skin. This wasn't momentary rage. This was calculated, sustained cruelty. November 24, 2009. What Mark Hutt would later claim was an accident bore all the hallmarks of premeditation. According to his own admission to police, he went down to the basement and retrieved a special pot, one large enough for what he had planned. He filled it with boiling water, and, according to detective interviews, he added vinegar, a detail that speaks to calculated malice. Vinegar makes burns more severe, more painful, harder to heal. When Mark poured that scalding mixture over Donna, 40% of her body was burned with 3rd and 4th degree burns. These weren't splash burns from a cooking accident. The pattern of injuries showed deliberate, methodical application. The burns covered her stomach, arms, and sides, areas that would be covered by clothing hidden from view. Even in his final act of violence, Mark was thinking about concealment. For 11 agonizing days, Donna lay dying in that basement while Mark lived his life above her. His cell phone records tell a chilling story of callous indifference. While his wife was succumbing to infection and septic shock, Mark was making calls throughout Ottawa, to Aylmer, Quebec, to Vanier, to Kirkwood. He called a paintball store in Merivale, shopping for equipment. He called his divorced parents. He even called an ex-girlfriend. Yet somehow, Donna still protected him. In her final phone calls to her mother, she maintained the fiction that everything was fine. She told colleagues that Mark was taking good care of her, running errands, cooking meals. Lies that must have been agony to speak. The trauma bond that kept her captive was so strong that even as she was dying, she couldn't break free. Even as Mark shot her with pellets after the scalding, adding torture to her final hours, Donna Jones kept his secrets until death freed her from the prison he had built around her mind. December 6, 2009, 4:47 p.m. Mark Hutt finally made the call he should have made 11 days earlier.
What is your emergency?
Oh, my wife's not breathing. My wife, I just woke up. My wife's dead.
Make sure she's on a firm, flat surface on her back.
She is.
Open her mouth by tilting her head back slightly. If you see a foreign object, gently remove it.
There's nothing in there.
Excellent.
My wife is dead, he told the 911 operator, his voice strangely calm for a man who had just discovered his wife's body. But Mark hadn't just discovered anything. Forensic evidence would later prove that Donna had been dead for at least 12 hours before he picked up that phone. When paramedic Logan Martin arrived at the Barwell Avenue home, she was unprepared for the horror that awaited her. Donna's face was so swollen that Martin couldn't open her eyes to check her pupils. When she lifted Donna's t-shirt to assess the burn injuries, the fabric was literally stuck to the wounds. Detective Tara Anderson, who had seen her share of crime scenes, was shaken to her core. "I've never seen anything like this in my life." She would later tell the court that Donna looked like she had been dragged behind a car on a gravel road. The basement told its own story of prolonged violence. Forensic officer Sergeant Stephen Jones documented red stains, blood, splattered on walls, across the hallway floor, on stair posts. A broken door hung at an angle. The acrid smell of decomposition mixed with something far more sinister filled the air. This wasn't the scene of an accident. This was a torture chamber. Mark's stories began immediately, and they changed just as quickly. First, he told Detective Anderson that Donna had been drunk when she fell into a fire pit at a friend's party in Cornwall. Co-workers had patted her down, he claimed, and when she got home, she refused medical attention. The story was elaborate, detailed, and completely fabricated. When that lie crumbled under scrutiny, Mark pivoted to his backup story, an accident with boiling water. He claimed he was carrying a pot when he accidentally spilled it on Donna 11 days earlier. He had tried to treat her burns himself, he insisted, because she refused to go to the hospital. He even claimed he had pawned items to buy bandages for her arms. But forensic evidence doesn't lie. The pattern of burns showed deliberate, methodical application, not accidental spillage.
My wife has never spoken to me the way she spoke to me 2 weeks ago. She basically told me that she was going to go with somebody else, that I wasn't going to be a father, that because I do, you know what I mean? I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect person. I get stressed out just like everybody else. And it all started one day. I was making spaghetti in the kitchen, and I wanted to make enough for 2 weeks because my wife loves spaghetti. She loved my spaghetti. She loved it to death. So I was making a pot. I was boiling water for the noodles. And she came up behind me and she said something about just like, this isn't working, this isn't happening, I'm gonna cheat on you, basically. Like I'm you know what I mean? If things don't work out, I'm going, you know, and she kept just saying it and putting it in my head, and putting it in my head, and putting it in my head. Bills in our house have been stacked up higher than you can imagine. I've been going through things with my father, everything like that, and when she said that to me, the water was boiling, and she was behind me, and I thought she had left the room. Instead of leaving the room, she was behind me, she was crouched down, and she was getting Tupperware out of the thing to bring for work. And I don't know why, I don't know what I did, but the next thing I knew, I hit that thing, man, I wanted to just, you know what I mean? I was so frustrated, I just wanted to you know, get my frustrations out. And when I hit that pot, she was behind me, and it just drenched her. And after that, I looked at her and I said, "Sweetheart, we need to go to a hospital." And she said, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go to a hospital." She was afraid for me to get in trouble, and I said, I don't care. Just go to a hospital. Please, we can deal with this together. It's an accident. We can get through it. She didn't want to go. I begged. I pleaded with her. She made up a story to her parents saying she was going to Cornwall for work. And she actually did have a cold. She called her work and said she had a cold, that she was staying home, and she wanted to heal at home. And I told her, I said, we can't do this. We have to get to a hospital. That went on for about a week of me changing bandages, staying up all night making sure she's okay.
The basement pot, specially retrieved and filled with boiling water and vinegar, told a different story. Blood evidence throughout the house painted a picture of systematic violence that spanned months, not a single tragic accident. The autopsy conducted by forensic pathologist Christopher Milroy revealed the full scope of Mark's depravity, 29 air gun pellets embedded in Donna's flesh, fired from close range. Some having been in her body for months, others added after the scalding as she lay dying. The pellets had caused lead poisoning, though not enough to kill her. That honor belonged to the burns that covered 40% of her body. Dr. Joel Fish, medical director of the burn unit at Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children, delivered devastating testimony. Had Donna received proper medical treatment, she would have had a virtually 100% chance of survival. Mark Hutt hadn't just tortured his wife. He had deliberately denied her the medical care that would have saved her life. Investigators found additional evidence that painted a picture of a predator: handcuffs, a bow and arrow, a sword, and finally, they investigated the third-party complaint that Donna's friends had filed with Ottawa police the day after she was scalded, a complaint that had sat uninvestigated until after her body was discovered. Too late to save Donna Jones, but not too late for justice. When Mark Hutt's trial began in May 2013, even his own defense attorney couldn't deny the horror of what had happened. In a stunning courtroom admission, defense lawyer Lorne Goldstein conceded that his client had tortured Donna Jones beyond comprehension. The evidence was simply too overwhelming, too damning, too graphic to dispute. Faced with a mountain of forensic evidence, Mark attempted one final manipulation. He pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of criminal negligence causing death, a last-ditch effort to avoid a murder conviction. But Crown Prosecutor Vicky Bear wasn't having it. The Crown rejected his plea and argued what the evidence clearly showed. This was first-degree murder, calculated and deliberate. The prosecution laid out a case that painted Mark as a methodical predator who had systematically destroyed his wife over 4 years. The boiling water mixed with vinegar, the air gun pellets fired after the scalding, the 11 days of watching her die while he went about his daily life. This wasn't negligence, this was murder with malice aforethought. The jury needed less than a day to reach their verdict. On June 7, 2013, they returned to the packed courtroom with their decision: guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted. Applause thundered through the chamber as Donna's friends and family finally heard the words they'd waited 3.5 years to hear. Her brother Derek pumped his fist in the air, tears streaming down his face. "An evil man was put to jail for evil crimes to my sister, and he will pay for the rest of his life." The sentence was automatic: life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. At his sentencing hearing, Mark offered a hollow apology, asking for forgiveness from the family and friends he had traumatized, but Donna's former boss, Adrienne DiTietro, spoke for many when she responded, "His last words were for us to forgive him. Never. We may come to terms with this, but there will never be forgiveness from me." Justice had been served, but it came at a price that could never be repaid. The guilt among Donna's survivors was overwhelming. Her friend Melanie Hooley, who had introduced the couple, carried a burden that words couldn't heal. "Had I not introduced the two of them, it is likely that Donna would still be alive. Instead, I allowed a monster into our shared circle of friends and walked her down the aisle in a coffin." For Donna's family, Christmas would never be the same. Their beloved daughter was born on Christmas Day, and now that day would forever be marked by loss. Her mother, Irina, spoke of missing Donna's presence, her laughter, the comfort she brought to their lives. Donna's story exposes a harsh truth about domestic violence. Sometimes asking isn't enough. Sometimes intervention isn't enough. The trauma bonds that keep victims trapped are invisible chains that even the strongest support systems can't always break. Her colleagues tried, her friends tried, her family tried, and still they couldn't save her. But perhaps that's exactly why Donna's story matters. It reminds us that domestic violence isn't about education or awareness alone. It's about power, control, and the systematic destruction of a human being's will to survive. It calls us to do better, to create stronger safety nets, and to never stop fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves.
An evil man
plan was put to jail for evil crimes done to my sister, and he will pay for the rest of his life. The justice system prevailed, and the dear Lord will take care of him in the afterlife.
How much of a toll has this taken on your family?
It's taken an enormous toll. It's such a negative impact for someone to die so young and so senseless. I mean, all she wanted to do was have a loving, caring family, and this is what she got from an evil man.
Donna's voice was silenced by Mark Hutt. Is her voice speaking out now?
She is now, loud and clear.
What is she saying?
She's saying that nobody can do this to anybody, and that if you need help, get help. Please, don't allow it to happen. Get help. There's lots of support networks out there. You deserve better. You don't need to suffer anything. You are all good people. You just have a bad situation, and there's lots of doors that you can open, that people will open for you to get through it, to move on.
What do you want to say to Mark Hutt?
I have nothing to say to him.
If you enjoyed this content, join our community by subscribing and turning on notifications. Every subscriber makes it possible for us to keep creating content we're passionate about sharing with you.